Right now, MaryAnne with Exit Coastal Real Estate Pros joins us. If you've got a question surrounding the housing market, buying, selling, if you want to rent, we're going to tell you that you shouldn't and should try and get qualified for a mortgage and buy a home and invest in your future through home ownership. Of course, you can find out more about what they do and why they do it on their website at exitcrp.com. And MaryAnne, you were over at the courthouse, I guess, this week. I hope for all things non-related to the criminal justice system, and I have a feeling that you weren't there in those sort of related issues. So thankfully, you were at the courthouse maybe for good reason this week.
There we go. Actually, Joe, I didn't go, but yesterday was the foreclosure sale at the courthouse, and there were several properties that were slated to sell yesterday, but only 8 of them actually sold at the foreclosure sale. And 2 were taken back for what they call the upset sale. And basically the upset sale is when the bank is remanding a deficiency against that borrower, when it goes to the sale at the regular foreclosure sale, the bank is always going to be the highest bidder because no one wants to bid on a property that has a 30-day deficiency remanded. Right. Because at the next sale, the upset sale, which is 30 days later, they can't bid. So 2 are set to go to that upset bid.
Now, I mean, we're no space like we were in 2008, right, when the market was just completely in shambles, and there were foreclosures popping up everywhere. There was some shoddy lending that was going on, or at least anyone and everyone was getting, hey, you don't have a job? Qualify for a $300,000 mortgage, no problem. Hey, you haven't worked in 10 years? Get a house. It'll be perfect for you. And there have been some things put in place to help protect the market from that happening in the future. But having said that, right now, tough times for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. How does that whole foreclosure process start? I mean, obviously you're delinquent on your mortgage payment, but how many payments are you behind, and what does that whole process start to take effect? Where essentially the lender is going to come back after you to take your home.
Right. So at that 30-day mark, you kind of get the hey, you're late on your mortgage, and then at 60 days, they're going to send you a breach letter that says, hey, you're in breach of your mortgage, and if you don't get it current, then we're going to go ahead and, move forward to accelerating the balance owed. But I saw people, and even to today, there's properties that, were filed in 2019 that are coming up for sale now. So, I mean, it's not really a really short process, but for some people, it's like 4 months and they're done. They're out of the house.
Now, if you are finding yourself a little underwater, or you had something pop up, a medical emergency, I don't know, whatever this variable might be, are there ways in which you could work, with your bank and your lending company to try and make this whole thing solid?
Yes, certainly, especially with medical or job loss. Those are like 2 of the easiest that I've helped people get, keep their homes, because you can ask for a forbearance, which means, hey, I just need a little bit of time to fix my medical issue or find a new job, and they'll kind of put a little pause on there, so you can do that. And a lot of times you can not only ask for that forbearance, but you can ask for a modification where they take that balance that you owe and tack it onto the end.
So it's not like your student loan is not just going to be forgiven by the government one day. I know you took out $100,000 for a major in basket weaving. We're just going to give you a clean slate. Doesn't work like that when it comes to your mortgage.
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
But oftentimes people are too prideful, right? Something pops up, and it could be in a medical emergency. They don't want to hint that something might be going wrong or haywire in their lives, and they don't do anything. And you would recommend, obviously, contacting your lender immediately once you feel that there might be something up in the air. Correct.
We also, I prided myself through that whole, foreclosure crisis that we had gone through, and I was very happy that only one person that I sold a house to ended up losing their home, because I always tell people, don't go house poor. It's no fun.
Yeah.
Accept something a little bit lesser than what the lender is telling you can afford.
Now, if you're on the flip side, if you're navigating, maybe a home purchase and you see the foreclosure, list pop up, how often does that all go down at the courthouse?
The sale is the first Monday of every month, and anyone is welcome to go. I kind of recommend that you find yourself an attorney not an attorney, a realtor that's well versed in that department, because there's things that you just don't know. So it's really important to have someone who is in the know.
Whether that be repairs to the home or within the financial aspect of it,
Well,
or both.
that 30-day thing. You don't want to bid on a 30-day because if there is a deficiency remanded, the highest bidder cannot bid at that upset sale 30 days later. So that's why we always want that to be the bank. But there's, IRS liens, and people don't realize. They're like, oh, so what? That's 180 days that they can come and take that property away from you.
So even if you went forward with
Purchasing
the
that,
foreclosure, they come at day 179 and
Take
say,
it back.
hey, we appreciate you putting down that dollar amount, but yeah, we're taking the property.
Yep.
So there's really some due diligence, like anything else in
Yes.
the home buying process.
Yes.
You need to work with somebody like yourself to navigate this.
yeah.
Your office also offers free foreclosure lists. Yeah.
Do, but those lists that you're going to pick up at my office have already been through that court sale process, so they are ready to go. You have nothing to worry about. It's there. If you guys want to call my office main line at 843-796-1358 and ask Myra or Dylan, they will email that list to you. You don't even have to come to the office to pick it up.
Is there a typical, average person that you would say comes, investor or whatever it might be, that is the typical person that's going to make these purchases on a foreclosure, or is it just random average Joe out there maybe looking for a deal?
Well, everyone wants the best deal that they can possibly get on a house, without question. But yeah, a lot of times the investors will come in, and first-time home buyers, because they think that that's the best avenue for them. But the way I look at it is, it doesn't matter if it was foreclosed or not. If it fits within your budget, it's something we should look at.
And with that said, are most of the homes, and I guess, again, case-by-case basis, when you get a foreclosure, is it going to be that dilapidated property, the eyesore of the neighborhood, or is it a sort of mixed bag?
It's a mixed bag, and people, it was the bank's fault that they lost their house. So one of the foreclosures I went into, or pre-foreclosures, they had kicked through the wall so you could walk room to room without going through a doorway, and they pulled out the toilets and put Quikrete down the... It was terrible.
So these are the things that you want to look at before you just show up on the courthouse and say, here's $80,000. I'm buying this 4-bedroom, 2,500 square foot home. Not to mention that it has no appliances, no toilets, nothing, and holes in the wall.
Yeah. There was a potential short sale back in the day in my neighborhood, and I saw a yard sale sign, so I was like, oh, let me go check it out. Well, there was the rolled up carpet on the front lawn. The kitchen sink was out there, and I called the agent, and I'm like, dude, you probably need to come over here because your client is selling everything, including the kitchen sink.
If you've got a question for MaryAnne, she's going to be with us for a few more minutes. It's our Ask a Realtor segment with MaryAnne Dorio of Exit Coastal Real Estate Pros. Again, our website is exitcrp.com. MaryAnne, you were talking just before we jumped on the air about another week of price reductions across the market. So we continue to see the balancing act sort of playing out in terms of the hot sales market that was pretty much present for the better part of the last 2.5, 3 years, and now the buyer getting a little bit more negotiating power, and maybe a slash on interest rates coming up in the next month or so.
I'm hoping for that interest rate reduction, but yeah, we had another 869 price adjustment since last Tuesday.
So within 1 week, so you're talking about just about 1,000, a little less than 1,000 reductions week to week, in terms of what we have on the market. As it relates to the number of houses that we have in the market, any idea as to where we're at?
Well, 657 new properties came on the market since last Tuesday when I was here. We are still low on inventory in the housing itself, just under 4 months worth of supply.
You say that 6-month threshold is where you kind of want to be.
That kind of levels off, yeah.
Now, in terms of who is selling their home, is it primarily older folks who are downsizing?
Honestly and truly right now, I think it's more based on a life happens, and then that's when we're selling, simply because the interest rates, people don't want to trade up. on that interest rate.
Yeah, I mean, so you got in at 2 to 3% 3 years ago. And what would you say a typical window? Maybe 5, 7 years when they start to revisit life changes and wanting to maybe get something bigger or downsizing. But if you're going to downsize at 7% when you have a 2.5% mortgage, maybe
Right.
it's just better to have a little extra space.
Right, right. And it's funny that you asked that question because I was just reading the NAR profile from last year. And it used to be like every 7 years people would change, and now it jumped to 10.
And that has everything to do, right? I would assume with the interest rates. And then if you do go out there and sell your house, you got to find something equal to, right? I mean, everything is priced pretty much above where you were at probably when you purchased that home 4 years ago or so.
Yes.
Just a wild time, but at the end of the day, we're sort of the diamond in the rough, right? There's a lot of other markets across our country that are getting hit much harder than what we're experiencing.
Definitely. Definitely.
I mean, it's pretty good when you could come here and get yourself in a home. The problem is if you're coming from out of state, is unloading your property probably elsewhere around the country. Do you find that being an issue for some?
There's still pockets where things are still crazy. My sister just sold her place in New York, and it was days.
Huh.
We're not seeing days in our market right now.
I think that's the mass exodus from like the urban areas of, say, New York City. People wanted to get out of the city or in the
she's
city.
up in the country.
Oh, yeah, okay,
she's not in the city. She's,
So I mean, what I'm saying is there are people who are living in the city that want to get out of the city.
Oh,
So
definitely.
they're purchasing your sister's home, and then your sister's coming here.
There you go.
It's pretty much how the cookie has crumbled in the last 20 or so years here in our area.
Yes.
MaryAnne, if someone has a question, whether it be about the foreclosure list you mentioned or looking to buy, sell, or just have any other sort of thought that pops up concerning the housing market, how can they reach you?
They can call me on my mobile phone at 843-450-2436.
Or go to our website at exitcrp.com. MaryAnne, thanks so much for the insight here this morning. We'll catch up next week.
All right, Joe, thank you.
All right, talking all things related to the real estate market with MaryAnne Dorio every Wednesday morning just after 9 a.m. with Exit Coastal Real Estate Pros.